Hey, it's Stuart. Good to have you back. So I want to share the lesson or a secret, the one key thing that I've driven into well over 700 recruiters over the past 5, 6 years that has resulted in them being able to double, triple, and even in some cases earn 5 or 6 times more in their fees and their commission. And it's really one quite simple thing, but nobody really does it properly anymore. So who am I? My name's Stuart. I'm a consultant, a business transformation specialist. And what I essentially do is I help recruitment businesses evolve. How do I do that? Well, I focus on consultative based selling and evolving recruitment and recruiters to really become consultants. So understanding the whole consultative process. And I've been doing this for a long time, independently for 6, 7 years, for well over 100, 150 clients. Personally, 40 of those have gone on to build consultancies earning hundreds of millions of dollars. But more applicably, I've actually worked with hundreds and hundreds of recruiters across pretty much every sector and industry within the UK, Europe and the US. And what I focus on doing is evolving their skills and evolving how they go and help their clients to really deliver proper value and service. So what I want to do is I just want to spend a few minutes. This would be quite a nice, short, punchy video. There's other videos I have that are much more detailed. And if you want to have a look at those, then please look at my other videos or check down below. Love to have feedback. If there's a particular topic you want me to talk about or go into detail, then please share in a comment. So the approach is pretty simple, but what I want to do is I want to give a bit of a backstory first. So just in the past couple of weeks, I've been doing what I do every few months is I go off and audit the industry. I audit my clients, my existing clients and potential future clients. I'm still very active in what I do. I really enjoy helping people evolve and businesses evolve and transform. And I've noticed a theme which is gathering a lot of momentum in the market, and it's April 2025 right now. And that is the lack of consultative engagements and how we help our clients. So I've been doing some research across many verticals within recruitment, speaking to a lot of CEOs and founders and leaders, and asking them what's the biggest challenge they're really facing or have been facing around their businesses. Is it growth? Is it client retention? Is it candidate acquisition? What is it? And what is coming through is quite a common theme, and that theme is, we're able to get in front of clients, we're able to retain clients, but we're just not doing enough. We're not able to penetrate them, deeply, offer more value. We are seen to be transactional. We're, struggling to defend ourselves in some instances against other players, other recruiters or other vendors, including technology and AI and how that's coming through. So what I want to do is I want to share with you this approach, is the consultative approach. And this is the secret to the success that really I've tried to drill into all the people that I've coached over the years and worked with. And I used to do this full time. So I used to run, multi-million-pound businesses for the largest recruiters. And I've gone on to do that independently. But I'm not a recruiter. And this is why I think you should potentially, find this interesting, is I'm not a recruiter. I have always been a consultant. And what I mean by that is I've always been consultative. So my formative years of my career were in very, very complex engineering in IT. And I spent 15, 16 years doing that. I got to the very, very highest level I could in my industry. I was one of only, I think, 1,000 people in the world certified to my level. And so, of course, everything I did was about solving problems. And then I shifted my career. I pivoted into more business leadership. And again, as I moved my skill set, the one thing that I unearthed was the need to solve problems. Every business, everything resolves around problems, and how we approach and solve those. And then as I started growing and developing my skills, and I went into the more coaching consultancy world, again, it all came back to that problem-solving approach. So what I've tried to help all the people and recruiters that I've coached over the years, from junior, entry-level consultants, all the way through to seasoned 15, 20-year veterans, is, solve problems. That is the most simple thing I can call it, is solve problems. All too often, everybody thinks that selling is about positioning and product positioning and, trying to instill how our product fits a certain problem or how it can add value to a business. And that's true, but you shouldn't lead with that approach. We're not in an environment in recruitment where somebody is choosing an off the peg or off the shelf product or solution. It's not like going on Amazon and saying, I'm going to buy a new book or I'm going to buy a new, tool for my garage or whatever. We're ultimately going to clients who have formulated an opinion of what they believe they need. And that's different. So what we have to do is firstly stop selling, start solving. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's a number of ways that we do that. So the first thing is, and I'm just looking at some bullet points. By the way, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know by now that everything I do is unscripted. Hopefully that gets across the authenticity of what I'm saying, the passion and the energy. I love what I do. I really enjoy fixing problems, be those technical problems, be those business problems. And I love to help people develop their skill set and become more problem oriented. So the way that we really should be looking at moving away from selling to solving is, well, we've got to build client value. And what does that mean? Well, what does client value mean? Well, value is created when pain is removed or remediated. So common saying that you'll see around is, you can have a vitamin approach or you can have a painkiller approach. And a vitamin is a nice to have. A painkiller is a must have. And what we're trying to get to with our clients is, what's the painkiller, requirement? What's the core pain that our client is trying to alleviate? And in recruitment, ultimately what we're providing is talent-led solutions. So that is candidates, be that perm, temp, contractors, deployed through models such as MSP, RPO, or individuals or team-based services, statements of work, project-based outcomes. It doesn't matter what you call it. Those are all the levels of service that are layered on top of the product, and our product is fundamentally people. So we've got to build value, and we've got to move away from this trying to just transact and sell our product. And we need to do that through understanding the pain. So we have to reverse the conversation back. Now, by the time you're talking to a client, in most cases, if that client comes to you or you found that client and they have an active hiring need, you need to be reversing the conversation back, and you need to be trying to understand what's driven the conversation and the topic to this point. What's the thought process? Why hire now? Why not hire in 6 months? Why not hire 6 months ago? If they tried 6 months ago, what was the issue? Why didn't that succeed? And there's a questioning approach we can go through. And consultative selling is more than just asking questions. It's about forming a very, holistic view on what the client's looking to achieve, what's the trajectory they're on, the stakeholder that you're talking to, how do they play a part in that, what's the impact and issues of them not achieving those goals, and then start layering out how we would overcome those things. So are there contingency elements? Is there alternative delivery models? Can we use talent in different places? Can we deploy talent in different ways? Fractional, hybrid, remote, blended teams, whatever. The key point here is we cannot make an informed assessment and set of recommendations if we do not understand the problem. And I do have a program that goes through all this in detail, but that's not the purpose of this video. So we've got to focus on building client value, and remember that value is created when we start alleviating and removing pain. We want to be earning more trust. Why do we want to earn more trust? Well, people buy from people. The more trust we have, the more credibility we sow in, the easier our process becomes in the future. Big issue I see in business is lifetime value is just not good. Lifetime value is how long you're servicing your client for. I don't mean dormant on your books. I mean actively being used year in, year out. So we need to focus more on nurturing our clients, developing trust, developing credibility, and that leads into our lifetime value. And the more that we become a problem solver, the more we become a trusted advisor. So spend more time unearthing the issues, the impact, the business and personal drivers. So remember, people buy from people, but ultimately it's very rare that you'll be transacting with one party. You may think that's the case, but there is a concept in selling called the circle of influence. And the circle of influence is, if you're dealing with a hiring manager, let's just say, for example, that's a CTO or a HR director or finance director, they may be the hiring party, but there are other impacting stakeholders around them that we need to be aware on, because if we go and place a candidate or a solution or an offering into that individual without understanding the impact points and how the others contribute to that decision or the long-term success, well, we're limiting our ability to do a number of things. Solve the problem properly with a painkiller approach versus a vitamin approach. We're also not understanding the long-term trajectory. We're not able to then sow deep down relationships around guiding and nurturing and advising that client for long term. So spend more time unearthing and impacting, the issues around the business and the person. Is that person going to lose out on a promotion, a bonus, a trip of some sort if they don't get this role over the line or this project over the line? And the final point I want to make here, and again, this is a shorter video. There are lots of other videos that I'm releasing around each of this in detail, is to hammer home the point about being consultative and not transactional. If you are asking closed questions, and closed questions are yes/no questions, if your primary sales script, if you use a script or tactic or line of questioning is very much yes/no answers, then you're unable to uncover problems. You should be asking open-ended questions that create thought-provoking responses. Why, the why type questions. At the end of the day, your role is, assuming that you're watching this in the recruitment industry, is that as a recruitment consultant. And that in itself is a bit of a misnomer. Most recruiters are not consultants. You are not there to, or you should be, but you're not. Most people I see are not trying to unearth and uncover and understand before positioning. It's more about, I have a candidate, they're the right candidate for you, or I believe this skill set is what you're looking for, without validating that's even right. So key thing here, act like a consultant, right? The more that you act like something, the more that you start in becoming that type of individual, that role. And there's a lot to be said for mindset. There's a lot to be, for positive action around how you think. The more you think about behaviors, the more those behaviors become rooted in your brain. And the more that we need to move away from consciously doing something to subconsciously doing something. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with here again, and if you've got any questions, any feedback, drop them in the comments. Have a look at my other videos. I go into a lot more detail around how we build the whole consultative approach. As I said, it is not about asking a number of questions. And the biggest annoyance I have when I go into any recruitment business is, can I have a script? Can you just give me a set of questions? And to every client and every company I say to that, I say, hell no. If I'm giving you a script or if I'm giving you a set of questions, you are fundamentally not understanding that you are supposed to be a consultant and you're supposed to be solving problems. You are just an order taker. And if you are just an order taker, well, then your time is marked, because when AI comes down and brings competition, through technology and bots and self-learning, you will have no position to play. So let's start bringing ourselves up the value chain. Let's start helping our clients. Let's start solving problems. Let's reposition ourselves as being, advisors on the long journey and being part of that, human interaction. So if you have any other questions, please come back to me. Look at my other videos, as I mentioned, and hopefully you found this helpful and useful. But there's lots of other videos you can look at around ICP creation, niche specialisms. How do you identify your market? How do you uncover your persona, the client persona? How do you really fundamentally understand the pains that they're having? And there's a whole process. And the more that you go through this, the better you'll become, the more you will ratchet those fees up. And that's what I've seen time and time again, is the ones that have a consultative approach, that spend the time to develop this skill set and use it, and it won't take you much longer once you become skilled, you know, your fees will double, triple. And I've had some people that have worked with me that have gone from multiple £100,000 billers to multi-million-pound billers, you know, £2.5, £3 million billers, which in recruitment is significant. It's like the very, very top. So hopefully you found this video great. It's great to have you back. Hopefully you'll tune in again to one of my future videos, and take care.